It is 4:30 p.m., January 5th. It's a Sunday. It's the day before I head back to school. And the only thing of note that has happened is that my grades were released. And I feel like I kind of want to talk about grades and how they just are, I don't want to say important to me, because that makes it sound like, I don't know, it makes it sound almost less important than they actually are, that they're such a source of stress and something I always strive to do well in just because of how I was brought up, that it's become something, probably one of the more important things in life that I've come to understand. And for the past 3 semesters of college, I have gotten the same grades. I have gotten 3 A minuses and 1 A, and that A has been in computer science each time, which, now this happened a third time in a row, is a little frustrating because I'm hoping to get an A in other classes. But it's still good grades, still very good grades. But it's the expectation I have for myself with these grades, and seeing the individualized grades for each class throughout the school year is so hard. Because I took a language, and I worked I worked so hard to do so well in the homeworks. I have anxiety in when speaking a different language, because I'm so afraid that I'm going to say something wrong, that I almost had a panic attack when doing my oral exams, but did well in those. It's just so many things add to stress, and the expectation I have for getting good grades makes it even worse. Because there's obviously an obvious expectation of just getting good grades in general. But I personally believe that to do what I want to do in education and in other things that I need to get exceptional grades. Like, the boarding school that I went to was the expectation I had for myself was, if it was a very difficult class that I took, a B+ would be fine, but then everything else should be an A- or an A. And I even got A+ in some classes, but I just distinctly remember Physics C, which was the hardest class I believe offered at that boarding school. And I was in class with 16 of the smartest people that I've ever met. And I got a B+ in that class. And I was super thrilled, but I couldn't imagine getting a B+ now. When I took a chemistry course this semester, I got an 83 on my first exam, and I was freaking out. Because even though it's one exam, it's one thing, the implication of that starting as a pattern, or that becoming the norm, was terrifying, because that's not what I needed. I could not have those grades to be able to achieve what I wanted to achieve. And it's frustrating that I want to do these things that require such work and such focus, when I have other friends who a business and finance major, so he just has to color in between the lines, and that's fine by him, and he gets hundreds and all this and that. And I have another friend who's on the path of just enjoying college, and is in a major that he doesn't need to get stellar grades, because once he's done with that major, he's done with that. And so he is fine getting B's and C's as long as he passes, because that's all he needs for himself. That's all he needs, because he doesn't need to get A's and A minuses. I mean, he may want to when he gets into harder classes and stops partying so much. But it's just that idea that I feel like I've put such a high expectation of getting these things that it creates some trouble for me. Well, maybe I work too hard. I neglect social interaction because I'm so afraid of getting poor grades. Like, it's a struggle, and I understand, like, a bunch of people do the same thing I do in college. Like, a bunch of the people on the hockey team, like, they'll skip parties to go study, they'll do a bunch of things, they'll miss a practice because they have a midterm. But I feel like I do it so much more, and I'll talk to people about the classes that I'm taking, and they're like, why are you doing that to yourself? And I'm like, it's just kind of required for me, for the program that I'm trying to apply to. And so it's just, yeah, it also gets annoying, and the fact is that I know that I have no right to complain because I brought this entirely upon myself. Like, I could have chose not to take these classes, these hard classes. I have maybe take some more filler classes for distribution rather than just taking a full STEM. Like, next semester, I'm taking a language because that's a requirement for graduation, vector calculus, and 2 other computer science courses. And I understand that I kind of brought this upon myself, but it gets to a point where it's almost getting so difficult that it's hurting my mental health because I have such a high expectation from myself to get these kinds of grades. And it always seems to work out in the end. Like, I have not gotten a B since I've been in college. I have only gotten A's and A minuses. And it's good, but the stress that I have going through the classes and working so hard to study, to memorize everything, is just very, very difficult. And it almost feels like the amount of work I'm putting in and the grades that I'm getting are still not equal. Like, the amount of work that I put in for my language feels like I should be getting an A, not an A minus, and some other classes like that. And I can tell that I'm being incredibly, incredibly hard on myself about the expectations I have. But I really want to do well and get into this program and be able to be in a position later in the life where I can say, I've done enough things, I've done my work, that I'm able to do what I want. And to me, good grades is what drives that. Maybe not drives, is getting these good grades is the catalyst to make everything else happen. And I'll never stop trying to get these grades, but sometimes I really do wish that I was in a position where I didn't need to get these grades, that I was okay with myself laying back a little bit more and relaxing a bit, not having to worry so much. But for now, I still have to study, and that's tough.